My name is Pete, and welcome to my garage. Alright, so the last time we left off, we had just gotten the seal installer on there. We had gone through the pump. Now we need to get the pump put back together and put together correctly. So we're going to take that off. I can't forget to put this shim in, or else our end play is not going to be right. And I need to get these holes lined up perfectly with these bolts right here. And they're at some kind of weird angles and everything like that. And it's going to be, these two are closer together, therefore I think it's these two. Set the stator shaft through there. And then whenever I pull this up, I should be able to look through here and line up the bolt holes. Okay. So those line up. So this shim right here is pretty much going to be the shim that if you needed less in play, you go with a thicker shim of one of these, and if you need more in play, you can go with a little bit thinner shim on our front end play. But our front end play actually was good before we tore it down, so in theory it should be good whenever we put it back together. And you want to make sure all that gasket material and everything that was on there before is gone. We got just a tiny bit left right there. Okay. So I'm not going to torque these pump bolts quite yet. I'm going to put them in finger tight, and I'll show you why. Alright, so for now they're just finger tight, so this thing can still be maneuvered just a little bit. Now, this pump, the two halves, where they come together, there could be a little ledge right there, and I can feel it right now. This part is slightly higher than this one. We want those about the same. So there's a little bit of play there. So what we can do, there's actually a special tool. It's a band that goes around this that holds it all together where there's no lip. I always just kind of put my fingers around it and everything and make sure there's no lip. But what we could do is when these things are finger tight, we can stick it in the case without the seal on it, and the case should line it all up. Then we can pull straight out on it, and it should be good. So we're going to do that real quick, and then we'll torque it down once we do that without letting it move. And the whole idea is that this right here needs to fit through, needs to fit into this without it being, you know, off a little bit and everything. It needs to go straight down and smooth. So I'm also going to need to remove the sizer right there for those Teflon seals. Actually, my two pump halves feel pretty good right now. I bet it's going to slide right down there pretty good. And then you're always going to want these holes to line up with the holes right there as this goes on. If it drops down nice and easy, that's not good. I don't like the way that's feeling. Okay, so I'm feeling around the side of this thing, and it is smooth edges all around. So I think it's going to be good. I'm just going to go ahead and torque them right now. I think we're going to be good. I don't even need to get the band for that. But one thing you do have to make sure is the two pump halves come together nice and clean. Okay, so these are 18 foot-pounds. Now, 18 foot-pounds is quite a bit. So if I went and torqued it here where my torque wrench is sticking pretty much 90 degrees to the, or pretty much out from the center of it, it's going to almost add to the torque that I'm going to have to try to hold on to this with, and it's really hard to hold on to that. Let me set this correctly. So what I always do is I always try to hold the side that the torque wrench is on and try to torque basically backwards against it, so it's almost helping me hold it, so that's a lot easier, right? So if I was way out here trying to hold this, it's going to be too hard for me to hold. But if I come close to the side I'm holding and put the torque wrench over the middle or close to the middle, then I'm actually kind of helping myself hold it. It makes it a lot easier. Oops, let me use this one. So it's almost easy to hold it. Seen before, people gotta have like somebody help them, or they're trying to sit here and try to crank on this over here. I mean, it's harder to hold it because you're getting more leverage on it over here versus back here against itself. Okay, so that's torqued. I do need to get this seal to stay on there. So we'll just glue it on. We're going to make sure these are all lubed up. I'm going to lube up the insides of these bushings in here. A lot of stuff has to go in for this to work right. So we'll lube up these seals. And then I'm also going to lube up the outside of this. I really don't know if that's all the way in there. I'm going to do a little more jiggling and shaking here. Man, that's fitting too tight. So I'm not even down on the inside bushings yet. What am I getting stuck on here? For some reason, I think the bushing up here is catching right in here. There's my problem. I'm catching up here on this bushing. Alright guys, so I almost really screwed up here. And on my turbine shaft, because this thing didn't have a torque converter and it sat for so many years, there was actually rust down here in the torque converter clutch feed that comes through right here up into here. There was rust in that hole. And actually one of these holes was completely clogged with rust. So I don't know if you can see it right now, but now we can see through it. I cleaned it out. Actually the hole is exactly 5/16, so I put it on a drill and I went through it with a drill, and now the hole is pretty much cleaned up and everything inside, so there's no more rust and everything. I got it all cleaned out. That's also looking good. Also, when I was test fitting my pump and everything on here, I needed to get the bushing all the way over to where it rides right there. The problem was this part was always sticking out, and so it had corrosion around there. And so the brand new bushing, because it's not worn at all, was getting caught right there. So that part, because it was out in the elements, had a little bit of that corrosion on there was catching on the bearing. And the old bearing wouldn't even, well, of course it's damaged because we tried to get it out of there. But like I couldn't, like it's a tight fit even with the old bearing. Now remember, I had to pry the pump out in order to get it out originally. So now we should be good. And that pump should hopefully slide onto this nice and easy, which is what we really want. Because we were having, I was having some serious issues, and I solved them off camera, wondering what the heck was going on with this thing. And it was a really good thing I got this rust out of that shaft right there, because that would have, I mean, I'm pretty sure the training fluid, once it's going through, there's probably the detergents are going to break some of that rust off the walls there, and it could possibly get caught in a valve, or you know, get in the torque converter and everything like that, and that's not going to be good. So I think I may have averted a potential problem right there. Now let's see if this will fit down on here. Now these seals seal into here. The inner seals seal on the inside of that, but that's tapered, so they should be good because they're sized. It's actually a pretty snug fit until you get past. There we go. Once we get in there, we actually can turn the pump independently of that, because it was really tight right there. I probably need to sand it down just a little bit more with a little bit of Scotch-Brite. But now it can spin independently, and that's what we want. Okay. Before it wouldn't. I couldn't even get the damn thing on there. So man, now I know my bushings are going to be really tight on there, and that should be good. And it likes to stick really bad. So I have two choices. I can either pull really hard, but I don't want to, or I can just flip it over and it will knock out of there. Okay, so I need to install this back into the transmission, and then my pump should be able to go on. And if I want to make sure that my pump is centered good enough, and actually if I want to make sure my pump is centered good enough, I can install it now before I have this in there. Now really, the directions say to put this in there and then these clutches, but you can get them in there. I've done it a couple times already. So it is possible. So this pump should just drop right in. Although it's not square right now because I don't have the shaft. Alright. So that drops in. It's sitting all the way down. Boom, that pump is going to be good. Alright, so that's not going to cause me any problems. And yeah, if you pull straight out, it works because those two case heads are good. So I need to get the seal on there, and I need to put the seal that goes on the bottom. My shim's there. All that's going to be good. I'll reinstall this, which is going to be fun. So you just kind of going to shake it. Alright, that drops down in there. That should be good. So now we need our pump to case gasket right there, so we just get the holes lined up. Looks like it goes in this way. Oh, that made it easy right there. It says up. Just make sure all the holes line up. And also you can add a little trans gel to it to hold it in place, keep it from twisting. But usually you don't need to. So. Then I got to put my perimeter seal here on the outside of my pump. So this seal just goes on the outside of the pump here. I can see my yellow line all the way around. And just to make it go in easier, as we do with pretty much every single seal on the transmission, we'll just give it a little bit of lubrication. Now, they actually do make some special tools that thread down, little dowels that thread down into a couple of these holes and are like guide pins to guide this thing straight down. Don't have them. You can actually make some out of some old bolts if you want to cut the heads off of them and put a little slice in them for a screwdriver. You can do that if you want. Not really necessary, but it might help. And it also might help install the valve body too. So I always look for these and line them up at the front of the pump, or front of the, not the front of the pump, front there. And then I got a couple of I look down the bolt holes and make sure the bolt holes are lined up. Now the question is, did that pump seat all the way down? I definitely don't want to put the bolts in unless that pump is sitting all the way down. And it is not seated all the way down. That's what I was afraid of. Son of a biscuit. I have to go further down into the transmission because this is not seating all the way down like it needs to be. Oh, that sucks. But this is something we need to do. Okay, if you look, I don't know if you can see it in here, but there is actually a gap in between the pump and the gasket right there. And if we, I don't know if we can see it in there either. And you can see that the pump is actually seated all the way down onto the housing in there. So that housing needs to drop down further. And it's not going to do that unless the stuff it goes to is dropped down further also. And I think that planetary, the planetary underneath this pump is not seated all the way down. Okay, I think part of the problem is right here. This piece is not far enough down. All right, it's not sitting far enough down. It should probably be below that level right there. Okay, so now I think I have this surface right here, lower than the mounting surface right there, and then there's a little step down where I believe that thrust washer rides. And I think I'm down far enough. I just had to shake everything so much that finally I think it sat down into whatever it needed to sit down into. Okay, right now I have a little bit of in play. And it is seated down all the way. The pump is seated down all the way. Okay, now this is all the way down, whereas before I had a gap, and I can't see any gap now, and I do have a little bit of in play there, so I know I can tighten this down. Before there was almost no in play, and there was a gap. So therefore, if I would have tightened it down, something would have broken. So we can't just tighten everything down. So now I need to get my pump bolts, and I need to make sure I put all the little O-rings on my pump bolts. All right, clean them all off. All right, and then I have a couple of the O-rings that I can just match them up with right here. So I need to find the kit. How many bolt holes do I have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So there should be 7 in the bag. Okay, we have a couple different seals right here. These seals look too big. I think these are the pressure switch seals. So there should be 7 seals for the bolts. So which ones are they? Okay, it's these little flat looking ones, I believe, and they fit up into, they fit all the way up into this little recess on the bolt right there. Alright, so there's one, and there should be 7 of them in here. I just need to make sure I get them all changed out on all the bolts. And if you can't get them out of there, just take a pick, and you should be able to get them out, hopefully without jabbing your finger. Whew, that was in there. Okay, that one broke. Trying to take it out, but that's okay, 'cause like I said, we got new ones. Okay, now make sure you don't lose any of those other seals that are in that package, because we're going to still use them here in just a little bit when we do this valve body. Now, one thing you want to do on these seals, you want to make sure that the bolt is centered in the center of the hole, because if it's cocked to one side, it could leak past one of these seals, and you can see right there that bolt is very centered in that hole, so we're good there. All the little things to try to prevent a comeback. Alright, can anybody guess what the torque spec is on these? That is right, it is also 18 foot-pounds. And so we're going to go in a kind of a crisscross pattern. Actually, I need to get an extension. Alright, I want to make sure I can still turn it. Yep, we're good. Bring them all down just a little bit. Alright, so we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay. Now we can't forget our turbine seal right there, our turbine shaft seal. Alright, so we're going to match it up. This one actually is black. On the 4L60, they're all orange. So let's see if I can match this up. Alright, so I got this little kit right here that's got a bunch of seals in it. And there is one in here in particular that looks correct. Is it that one? That looks like it right there. We're going to lube it up. We're going to put it over there. Alright, there is for our torque converter apply, or else it'll just leak past that and it won't apply. So the entire lower side of this is complete. I still have in play. That's good. So that is awesome. I am now going to flip this over, and now we are going to deal with the valve body side of things. Alright, so this shift mechanism on the side This over here is going to have to go. This is not going to work on my swap. And I probably should just replace that shift shaft seal. I don't know why I was thinking about being lazy on that one. I should not be lazy. I am going to replace that shift shaft seal while I'm at it. So there's a little nail right there that we need to pull out in order to be able to get this out. And then we undo that, and then this thing should slide out. Also, we have to undo the parking pawl down here and the spring in order to get that out, but that shouldn't be too hard. Actually, this is just the actuator, so you probably don't have to mess with the spring. And I also pulled out the wiring harness whenever I washed out the case and everything. I didn't want the wiring harness to get water in it and get damaged. So we'll have to get that taken care of in a second. Get the wiring harness put in there. But you can see, now you can see how easily this thing, all it does for park, is whenever you push this in park, all it does is pushes the fat side of this rod over to engage this piece, the park pawl, down into the lugs right there on the output carrier ring gear, on the internal gear right there. So this is pretty neat. And then it's just retracted by this little spring. So simple, it's crazy. So now we'll just take all that out at the same time. I need to loosen that nut, and we pull this pin out. And I don't know if I can hold this. Yep. All right, so I was able to hold that still enough to where we can take this nut off. And see, that pin is now holding this whole thing from sliding out. So we got to pull that pin out. How do we get that pin out right there? There's a couple different methods we can use. I'm just going to grab them with vice grips and see if I can wiggle it out. If not, then I'm going to have to get a little lady foot pry tool underneath the vice grips and maybe pop it out that way. Okay. All right, now that I got the vice grips on, I might be able to get under this. Maybe. Try it up. Maybe. Come on. Yep, there it goes. Boom. We've pried our little nail out. We're going to reuse it. Unless our kit comes with a new one, but I don't think it does. So now that that's out, this thing should be able, yep. There it goes. I can unthread it. And all right, I can slide the shaft out. I am going to take this this lever off because I'm gonna have to somehow fashion a lever in order to work with my shifter on the BMW. All right. So you can see the hole that we're left with right there. Now we need to get the seal pulled out this way, and then we're going to put a new one in. You can see there's the hole that the tranny filter goes into. Alright, so we got this seal that's inside there that we're going to replace. It actually has kind of some junk around it, so it's probably a good idea that we're going to replace it. Let me make sure I have one in the kit, which I better. Okay, and you can see I have a new one in the kit here, and that's going to be the one that goes in that hole. We'll just use a socket that's about that size to knock it in there. We just need to be able to get it out of here, so let me show you what I use. So for this seal, I always use a tool that looks like this. It's got a little hook on that side that I can hook underneath it, and then I can hammer on it. You can see right here, I'm underneath it, and then I can just hit this with a hammer and pop it out. And I don't think these are in there very good, or they're not in there very tight. Maybe. Spoke too soon. There it goes. All right, there's our old seal versus new seal. I'm going to clean up that bore a little bit. All right, now I just need to find a socket about that size, and actually I bet a 1/2 inch maybe? Yeah, 1/2 inch for a 13 millimeter socket is about the perfect size for that. You can see it's about the exact same size, and I want the lip of that seal facing inward towards the fluid just like every other seal, and then we're just going to drive it in there. They actually make a special tool to be able to replace this one with the shaft in the vehicle and everything. I have never used it before, but I bet that would save you a lot of time if you had to do one of these. Alright, that seal is in there. Now hopefully we don't have any shift shaft leaks. Alright, so you can see the shift shaft right there. I got that bracket and everything off of there. Should be good. I'm going to lube up the inside of that seal. And let's see, this park mechanism, it's going to go in here. Okay. Next I have the nut. There we go. Thread the nut on. That should get everything straight. This is what moves the manual valve right here. This little pin right there splines with the manual valve, and you can see our park system right there. And we need to make sure that I'm going to look through that hole, and I want to make sure that the groove, or I might be able to feel it with the pin right here. So if I put the pin in, it's not hitting the groove. There it is. So now it's down in the groove, and I just got to tap that in just a little bit. I mean, you don't have to hit it very hard. I don't want to hit that, so I better... I probably use a little punch here. Alright, I don't think that's going anywhere. And this just needs to be tightened up. Alright, that's going to be good. Now I need to get over here, my 13's on. Alright, and this piece helps locate that park pawl where it needs to go, because if that's not right, then man, I'll tell you what, when something doesn't go into park and it's supposed to be in park, that's really not good. Probably 18 foot-pounds, but this one really isn't that critical of a fastener torque. Just get it tight, just don't overdo it. Okay, now before I get on to everything else over here, we need to get our harness ready and everything. The only thing about this is we got to get it in the case, and we need it to seat all the way. There are little tabs that they're supposed to be on the ends. Okay, there we go. This one right there. And this one's broken off, so that's really not good that that's broken off. I might have to get a new harness at some point. Not really happy about that. I didn't think I needed a harness. The problem is if these little tabs like this one right here are broken off, you can see this one's broken off on this side. And it's also broken off there and there. There's only one tab that's going to hold this in. And the problem is if I go to push on the connector, it might just push this back into the transmission and unseat this O-ring. And therefore I'm going to have a big old leak right there. I have seen that one other time, and it was on a Serta. I went to plug in the Serta on a 4L60E, and that connector goes from the top down. And when you plug it in, it pushed it down in the tranny and it leaked fluid everywhere when I shut the engine off, because then all the torque converter fluid went down in the pan and it went and overflowed it. Yeah, that sucked. Because then you got to take the valve body off and all that on a 4L60E to replace the harness. I'm just going to roll with this one, see if hopefully I can get it connected and get the thing to stay in the transmission. I can pull out on it, push, and try to get it connected. We'll see. I just need to find this seal right here in my kit. Okay, looks like I found the match. The nice thing, even some of these aftermarket kits, is I think they source the parts from a lot of the same places that the factory does, as far as the seals and stuff. And then they're also, the colors of the seals are usually the same as the factory. So here I'm going to lube this up, slide this in. Now it pops in. Okay, it's staying. I think I might be in the clear because that one tab is not broken off. Whew. Okay. If I really wanted to get crazy, I could ohm out all these wires, which I don't think are necessary. I'm not going to do that. If I have any electrical problems, I don't have to pull the transmission out to do it. Now, there is a little filter that goes in this case right here. I've already installed that because whenever I cleaned the case, that filter popped out somewhere in my yard, and I have no idea where it went. So I already knocked a new one of those things in there, just so I didn't forget it, because I knew it might be a minute. Other than that, we're ready for the rest of this, do the 2 servos and then all the valve body. So let's get on to that. Okay, so our next part we're going to end up putting in here is going to be our manual 2-1 band servo. And I want to make sure that I look through the hole and see that band sitting there, and it looks good. Looks exactly where it needs to go. And it looks like, oh yeah, I can push that band, and that's lined up. Okay, here's our manual 2-1 servo here. Now, there's not much to this guy. It is pretty simple. It just has a little seal around the outside here. It's a Teflon seal, it appears. And, okay, there's a little cup right there that holds this retainer together right there. So if that cup's gone, that retainer can come off. And then the spring goes in there first. So I need to clean all this up. So I'm going to take it apart. Okay, there's my spring, this little cup, the pin, which I'm going to put in the cup so I don't lose it. And then this can come off, and then we can check over this pin and make sure everything's good. All right, and then I just need to replace this one seal on the outside of this servo here. And the only thing this does is actuates that band for manual 2-1, but I need to get it all cleaned up. All right, there's a couple Teflon seals in this package right there, and that one seems too small. This one's just a little bit bigger. That appears to be the Teflon seal that goes on this. Man, practically, well, I did have to cut the thing to get it off. So that seal is off, and our new seal is going to be this bigger one here. And I guess I'll just walk it over it. Wow. Normally these things are like scarf cut seals, not Teflon seals like this that you gotta really pull over there, but I got it. Alright, I'm just gonna basically size it by hand. I should get, now this is tapered a little bit, so I should be able to get this in there. And maybe that's why there's no special tools for it. So the pin goes through the back side. You can see the little notch right there. Pin goes in the notch, or the clip goes in the notch in the pin, and then this cap goes over that, holds it in place, so there's no way the pin can come out. Now we have this spring that goes in here. The spring is also going to go in first. All right, and then I'm going to lube this up so I can get it to push down in the hole. I guess if you pull up on it too, it puts enough tension on that it's not going to go anywhere. Ow. Okay, so that one is in. That is pushing on the band whenever there's pressure behind this piston. It pushes down on that and actuates that band for manual, second, and first. This one's a little bit more involved. It has a big old gasket for the outer perimeter. It has an inner piston seal, another piston seal right there. There's my bolts in the cover. And then we have our springs in there. And then there's another piston seal inside of this. So there's actually, it almost acts as an accumulator too, I guess, with the way these springs are set up. So we're going to have to clean all this out. Get looks like 3 seals right there replaced and our gasket on the outside. Okay, just need to match up the seals that are on here. And these are square cut O-rings. So we got that one and this one in here. Do the old pinch trick and push it up and grab a hold of them. Pull them off. Alright, so I got to match up those with the square cut O-rings in the kit. Alright, there's that one. Alright, and now I got the perimeter seal that's on this one. Now, right here we can see, I hope you can see, that there are 2 thin lines right there. Now what that corresponds to is the length of this pin from here to out there. So if this isn't long enough, this is how we make a band adjustment, is with this pin length right there. So a longer pin's going to make it to where there's less travel that this has to go in order to push down on the band. The band wasn't burned up on the original one, so I don't think I'm going to have to worry about it. So I'm not even going to really do anything about it. Alright, so there is this special tool right here. .480, 480E. Okay, so these 2 holes line up right there, and that lines up directly over that. Alright, so there's apparently there's another part to this tool that I don't have. That is a special gauge pin that goes in here. And so it goes in, and then we tighten this to a certain torque and push down, which pushes on the band. And then depending on what part of that is sitting right there at the little gauge piece, A, B, or C, and where at on that, determines which one of these goes with it. This one right here with the 2 thin ring lands like this is actually a pin length number 3, which is close to the middle, but actually one of the shorter pins that we have. Dang, I didn't grab the whole part of that. Okay, so I need to get a replacement seal that looks like that for this. So there's that one. I think that's it. Pretty close. So we will install this one. Okay, there we go. Now what's crazy is this right here, this piece right here is actually our 1-2 shift accumulator. So this piston right here is the one that actually cushions our 1-2 shift. That and this spring right here. So this spring fits on the inside of that, which actually fits in this hole right there. This piece fits down in there. This piece fits over that. So it actually uses the housing on the inside of this and this spring as a cushion for the 1-2 shift. So if you wanted to firm up your 1-2 shift, you could replace this with a stiffer spring, although that one's pretty darn stiff right now. Alright, so that's going to go in there. We're going to go ahead and lube up these seals so all these slide in. Luckily, they're just kind of some O-rings. So it all should slide in pretty good. Alright, so that's going to fit on the inside of this. Like so. That's going to be... We'll lube up the outside of this seal. Alright, and then the inner seal. So our inner seal is going to go under this part, and our outer seal is going to fit over that. And this whole thing should push down. And then this piece right here is actually going to actuate that band. So actually, whenever you select reverse or manual first, fluid pressure actually flows on the outside of this piston and pushes on this to push on the band. Now, this thing right here, it's sitting down in the bore, but it's really not too far down in the bore. In service information, it actually tells you not to force that down in the bore, kind of like I was just doing right now, but don't do that. It actually says that this gets pushed down into the bore whenever we tighten this cover. You can see these lands right there that pretty much correspond to pushing on the outside of that just a little bit to push it down. So I'm going to clean up the bolts in the cover here, get a new gasket for it. Now man, all these accumulators and servos, any junk that's in the transmission seems to accumulate in them. I don't think that's why they call them accumulators, but they do. The junk accumulates in there. They become the garbage cans of the transmission pretty much, because that's where you're going to find all the garbage. So if you don't take them apart and you have a catastrophic failure, then you're probably not going to be able to get all the debris out, because it's going to be stuck in your accumulators. Or accumulated in your accumulators. Okay. New accumulator gasket here. You can see this indentation where it kicks out right there. There's actually a spot over here that's going to line up with that. So it's going to seal off the fluid. Alright, and then this little spot's going to come over here too. Blow this hole out. And the bolt off. The bolt didn't want to thread in easy. Look at that, there it goes. There's just a little piece of junk in there. Don't force the threads on any of these transmissions. These aluminum housings and everything With the small threads, man, you go forcing it, it's going to end up screwing something up. So just make sure everything's cleaned out before you go forcing any threads down. Alright, and the torque spec on that is, according to service information, the torque spec on these bolts is 18 foot-pounds. Let me make sure these are 8 by 125 bolts. Okay, they're 8 by 125 bolts, but they're 10 millimeter heads. I'm thinking 18 foot-pounds on those little bolts, really? But they are 8 by 125 thread, so 18 foot-pounds should be good. That scared me there for a second. I didn't want to over torque them and break anything. All right, now this housing should push the piston down in there. My low reverse servo is on. My manual 2-1 servo is on. All we have left on this entire transmission is pretty much the valve body. So I'm going to stand this thing up just so it's not in the way, because the valve body we need to do over here. I'll be honest with you guys, I really don't like doing valve body work. You know, it's tedious, it's time consuming, and it's not nearly as fun as doing all the nuts and bolts. But it is part of the job, and you have to do it. So, and if you don't, that's when you end up having comebacks. Okay, I'm going to remove all these bolts, and I'm going to set them aside. And I hope they're all the same length, but some of them, like this one, go right there, that have the little clips for that feed pipe. They're all looking like they're the same length, which is good, because on the 4L60 they're not all the same bolts, and if you get one in the wrong position, then you have all sorts of problems. Alright, so this one that reaches over from that way goes there. This one where it comes back, I think, was right there. Alright. Okay, hopefully we don't lose any of those bolts. It looks like a couple that go in here. Okay, this is actually already undone. Okay, on the bottom side here, these are our pressure switches. We actually have new seals for this in the kit, so now nothing's going to fall out. Alright, we're going to flip this guy over right here. This right here, these are our 3rd and 4th accumulators. So, we will need to take off these bolts. These look like they're 8 millimeters. You can see this is actually our spacer plate here, and we'll check out our spacer plate. Yeah, it looks like we actually do have some decent wear on those check ball holes, which that's not good because I didn't get a new spacer plate. We'll have to see if we can see any light through them like it says in the book to do, and that's how we check them. Alright, I got my little DeWalt screw gun for working under the dashes of cars. This will work for this. This will actually probably work perfect for this valve body. Alright, fluid's probably going to come shooting out of here, I would assume. It usually does. It's been a while since this one's actually been in operation, so... Whoa, what's going on here? I'm fighting some spring pressure there. Okay, so I was fighting a little bit of spring pressure right there. So here's our 3rd and 4th accumulators. We will need to take these out and replace the seals that are on these piston pins. Now sometimes in order to get these out, it's kind of a pain in the butt. I don't know if we can put air to the back side of those or not. Let's see, how do we get these out on this one? All these bolts appear to be the same size. I'm always leery to make sure that they're all the same size. And let's see, can we apply air to the back side of those pistons? Yes, if I put air in this one, it'll supply air pressure to the back side of that one. And it looks like if I put air into this, it'll supply air to the back side of that and blow it out. Obviously, the taller one fits the bigger spring. These accumulator springs cushion the shifts. All right. So I blew some air into that hole right there and it launched this out. And you can see here I got some junk sitting in there. So there's always a little bit of junk in these accumulators. I need to replace the seal that goes on there. And there's going to be another one on this other accumulator right there. And then there's this pin in the middle of it that's held in by these clips. These little E-clips. But we don't have to take that pin out because it looks fine. So I'll just clean that up and put the seals on. Got a couple of seals that look identical that are probably going to be these two seals, I would assume. All right, now remember this way went in and the nipple side of this thing was sticking out. Oh man. All right, so these rubber seals on this, since it's been sitting so much, they're not very pliable. They don't do very good. I'm going to clean this off. I feel like a dentist over here scraping tartar off of people's teeth. Okay, and I will put a new seal on there. And the new seals can stretch enough to fit on here. All right, so there's one. I will put that in just a second. That's for this one. I'm not sure which one's third and which one's fourth, but to be honest with you, it really doesn't matter right now since I'm just cleaning them up. Alright, so I applied air to this one. Now this one's actually a little bit different. It's got the same seal right there, but it's got a smaller seal right there. So I'll go ahead and clean this one up, and then we'll clean up the housing and get everything out of it. All right, looks like these are going to be our two seals, I believe. This one I'm going to have to dig this one out. It's a pretty fat seal. Yeah, look how thick that thing is. All right, we'll just break it. All right, match it up with that one. Then I'll do the same thing. I'm just going to poke the seal and rip it to get it out, to keep from damaging this plastic accumulator. Okay, there we go. All right, just clean it off. All right, install some new seals. Okay, just want to make sure you don't roll it. Although I don't think it's possible to roll these because they're so big. There we go. All right, now that's the one that's going to go in this one. Actually, I guess that's going to sit something like that. And now we just need to clean out the housing. So this housing right there, just clean it out. There's a bunch of junk in there. Make sure that there's no gasket material, a little bit left right there on that. And that'll be ready to roll. I get my razor blade, kind of clean out this little piece right there. All right, the rest of it seems pretty good and clean. All right, all we got to do now is to put our pistons back in there for our accumulator pistons. This one, remember, this is the one that fits over the pin right there. And I just need to lube it up and push it down. Alright, so it just goes on like that. And then pretty much the same thing for this one, just lube it up. And it's going to fit down into the bore like that. Should be pretty easy to get that to go down. Alright. Ow. I rolled my fingernail up over that thing. Alright, cool. So that piston fits down in there further. That's the longer spring. Here's the shorter spring. Alright, they're both down in there, bottomed out. And pretty much awaiting, whoops, the other way around. These are both awaiting reinstallation into that, into the valve body right there. So we're going to hold those until we're ready to install them. But right now, since we don't have that on there, our spacer plate can now come off. All right, and we can see we got some gasket material we're going to have to clean off of there, which is really fun because spacer plate gaskets, God, they suck. Some people have used oven cleaner on them and everything in the past. I don't know. So this check ball right here is dinged up that pretty good. And also that is dinged up pretty good. And you can see that we got little orifices next to the check balls. Man, that one's not going to seal. I probably need to get a new spacer plate, to be honest with you. Great. I'm going to have to go to the transmissions shop tomorrow. Oh man, this is going to suck to clean off of here. This valve body gasket is just coming off in tiny little pieces. Oh my God, it's sat so long. This is going to take forever. Usually the valve body gaskets kind of just peel off, right? But oh my God, I'm going to be here for a long time. Oh Jesus. This is awful. This gasket is literally coming off in pieces this size. This is terrible. So I'm going to have to really make sure I clean this out. Every little passage, every spot has to be cleaned out because all this little tiny pieces of gasket are going to be stuck in here. Now there's also one of these gaskets on the back side of the spacer plate, and it's doing the exact same thing. It's just coming off in tiny pieces. And I'll show you the spacer plate in just a second. And it's going, I'm just going to get a new spacer plate because this is going to take way too long to clean off of that too. And because of the way the check ball holes look, I think I need one anyway. So it's going to be a good idea for me to just get a new one of those. I'll check back with you guys in a couple hours once I finally get this done. You can see where I got on this. It's like 11 o'clock at night, and this thing is going to take me forever. Well, here's where I am right now. There's still a ton of this gasket material still on there. I've got all the worm track parts of it picked off, and every part that comes off easily. You can see my pile of tiny little chips that I've got. I'm pretty much convinced that this is what they should make prisoners do in their spare time. This would be really good punishment for somebody who was in prison, and they can take up a lot of their time doing this and really help people out by scraping valve bodies. This should be good prison punishment, I think, because this is awful. Alright, so finally I've gotten the valve body cleaned off, all of the gaskets scraped off of there. What an absolute nightmare that was. I got a pile of teeny tiny little chips. I mean, it was coming off in pieces this small. There is absolutely no way I'm also going to do the same thing to this. It's going to just also, well, it's a little bit bigger pieces. But the problem is that I have spots on my spacer plate here where the check balls are not going to seal very well. And I will show you how we check this. And you have to find the side of the spacer plate that the check balls are on. On this side, the check balls aren't on this side, so therefore the holes look perfect. But when you flip it over, these holes are beat up. And this is why sometimes a lot of people, they like to throw the newer style check balls that are just the little nylon ones in there. The metal check balls can sometimes beat up the spacer plate. Okay, so in order to check this, I'm going to go ahead and put that right there. And I'm going to shine a light from the underside of this, and we can, if we look around it, we can see if we see light coming around that check ball. And I actually do see light coming on this side of it. I don't know if you can catch that on the camera or not, but you can see light around that check ball. Especially, whoops. Well, now it's sealed down on there, sort of. Except for there's a little bit of a lip over here on that side. Now this one, I mean, that's sealing pretty decent. Oh wait, no, there, it's actually getting around it right there. You can see it on that side, so that's not sealing either. This one right here looks like it's probably going to seal okay. Actually, yeah, that one seals okay. It looks like if you push it a little bit and make sure it's seated down in there. Well, that one's not sealing very good either. So you can see the ones where you see the wear, and the wear kind of, it's off to the side a little bit. That's not good. There's, let's see, this one right here. Push that in there. And you can see, I see daylight on this side of the check ball. Right there where it's all worn. So I definitely need to get a new spacer plate. Always take a look at those spacer plates. And that was kind of the whole idea with going with those nylon check balls. The only problem is sometimes the nylon check balls get worn out to the point where they fit through the holes, or they get lodged in the spacer plate of our 6 LEDs. As far as our valve body goes, we have what looks to be our shift valves right there. They look like they're held in with Torx bits. I need to make sure I get the correct ones in the correct spot. Although I don't know if you can screw that up or not. I don't think you can. It looks like this hole's offset further than this one, so if you got it in wrong, I don't think there's any way you can screw that up. And you can see, let's see, we also have our pressure control solenoid right here is also bolted in. Our manual valve, it just slides in and out. That's pretty easy. We just want to make sure that that can move freely. and we're going to make sure all of our other valves can move freely. So like there's a roll pin right there that holds that one in, a roll pin right there, roll pin there, roll pin, roll pin, roll pin. All those are holding in those valves. Because all those little tiny chips of valve body gasket and stuff can get caught in there and hang up one of these valves. So we need to make sure they move. And actually I can hear most of the valves moving pretty good on their own. Can you hear that? All right. So let's take apart a couple of these valves. There's also a filter right here. So this little filter can come out. All right, see this little guy's got a little O-ring on him. This little filter, here it is right there. It's got the O-ring in the screen. That is the force motor feed screen. So this is the feed right here for our force motor or pressure control solenoid right there. So we need to get a new filter for it. And that filter was clean, so that's good. But if your pump goes bad, one of the first places it's going to start pushing that is over towards this pressure control solenoid, I believe. All right. Get our O-ring on there. Get her lubed up. And it just presses in. I'm going to go ahead and get my Torx bit out so I can take apart the shift solenoids and the pressure control solenoid. There we go. Take that shift solenoid off. We'll have to see which one it is on service information. Come on. There we go. It's got a little O-ring right there. A little screen. We want to make sure that's clear. Alright, same thing here. Check the screen, because if that can't flow fluid through it, it's always going to act like this thing is closed. Alright, so I'm just going to go one valve at a time to make sure that I don't somehow screw up and get these things messed up. There's actually also a check ball in there that moves back and forth that appears to be doing its job. Ooh, almost dropped the manual valve out of it. So always be careful about that manual valve. It'll slide out when you're not expecting it. And there's actually a screen on the back side of that too that I'm going to push out. All right, I have a 1/16 roll pin remover right here. Okay, and what I'm going to do is, just like on our pump, I'm going to go ahead and push a little pressure on it. Most of the roll pins actually go out the way that they're held in basically by the valve body being bolted in. Okay, that drops down. Okay, there's my roll pin for this one. Also, make sure it doesn't come shooting out of there. I'll flip it over. And the back side of it is this manual valve. And it pushes out that way, but I probably have to stick something down there to actually push it out, because I don't have anything to really grab a hold of this with. And can I get in there to push it? I don't know if I can. Let's see. Okay, long punch from manual valve side of things. Kind of push that out, hopefully. There it comes. Okay. There we go. Here's another screen in here. Little filter screen. This one actually looks pretty good, but we're just going to go through this and make sure that there's no debris in that entire bore. So let me go find this new screen. And let's see, there's a couple different O-rings in this kit. I believe it's going to be that one, maybe. All right, we'll get it on there. And I need to make sure that I clean out this bore. Alright, so I can see in that bore that it's cleaned out. I need to lube up this screen seal right there. And then this is smaller than this, so it has to go in first. And here's our bore plug. Alright, and so I'm not in quite all the way yet because I can still see, I can't see the hole. And I'll just tap that in just a tiny bit. Seat the O-ring. Okay, and the roll pin goes in from this side. There we go. Alright, so that valve is, that filter and everything is finished. I'm going to wait to put the manual valve in so it's not just falling all over the place. The next one is the next one over. Okay, so the first shift solenoid that we're coming to is going to be this one, and that is going to be our 1-2 shift solenoid. So our 1-2 shift solenoid, there is the valve is right up against this pin. I will push the valve down. There's going to be a spring on the back side of this. Now to check these valves before you ever take them out, just kind of, you probably can't see it very well in the camera, but yeah, try to find some of these ring lands and everything, just kind of move the valve over. Let's see if it snaps back. That one does a little bit, it moves a little bit, but I can't get a very good amount of movement on it, but it does move. So that's going to be okay. Let me see if I can push this pin up from the bottom side, it'll be easier to see. And you can't get onto those. Aha, there we go. Alright, you can see I got this out just a little bit. I'm going to push the valve in now. Once you get out a little bit, hopefully, there you go. So now I got this pin pulled out. And there's spring pressure behind this valve. And my 1-2 shift valve moves out of the bore pretty easily. Now, this could be very easy to get in backwards, and this is bigger than over here. So I need to make sure that that goes towards the pin. spring comes out and the spring goes this way. All right, that's all looking pretty good inside there. And I'm just going to spray it and blow it out. All right, I'm going to drop this spring in. The valve should be able to freely move through there. Now, if it sticks at all, then you got problems. And right now it's not sticking at all. I can move it in and out. You can feel the spring pressure. So that is fine. And then I just got to push it down and get the roll pin in there. Okay. All right, that 1-2 shift valve is good. All right, we have gone through the entire valve body. All of our valves work perfectly. However, I do need to get a new spacer plate. So that's all right. So I have my new spacer plate. This is from Transgo. This is a 4L80E plate. It says this one will do anything from like 1991 all the way up till like 2007 or 8. And there's only a couple little things. It comes without a hole over here. That's for the pressure control solenoid balance. But our PC solenoid, once it's 93 and newer, you don't have to have that hole drilled, and ours is 93. So I don't have to worry about it because it does not have a screen on the end of it right there. So I at least don't have to worry about that. Now, I am going to enlarge a couple of these holes right here, just pretty much for to make it shift a little bit firmer, and especially the third gear, because we got rid of the we're over doubling the surface area of the piston, so we need a lot more fluid volume. Okay, so I'm going to compare it to this chart right here, and this is telling me that this is my second gear feed hole, my third gear feed hole is over here, and fourth is over here. I don't have to drill this hole right there because I have the new style. I've got the 93. Okay, now there's some information on the internet. Sloppy Mechanics has a bunch of information on the 4L80E and like what size of holes to drill and everything. Here they're saying if you have over a 4,000 pound vehicle, probably want to do that to about 330 seconds. Now the problem is you can always drill bigger, but you can't go smaller. But I'm going to go for 330 seconds because I mean we're gonna be making some decent power with this thing. So I'm going to go ahead and drill that out. Now just set it on a 2x4 and we'll just drill through it. Okay. Kind of clean up the back side of that hole. Make sure it's the same hole. Alright, we don't want to get too crazy with the second gear shift. Now, third gear. This is going to be the one that I'm really going to need to enlarge. It's this guy right here. It's this small hole right there. It's saying 7/64ths of an inch for this hole right here. However, it says on some of them, if you have a seriously high horsepower or really heavy like truck or something like that, you can go as big as 1/8 of an inch. 1/8 of an inch is huge. I'm going to go with 7/64ths because I'm not getting crazy with this thing. It's still a daily driver. I need to make sure I'm on the right spot. It's this hole right here. This one right here. Now for fourth gear, how often are we going to actually be slamming this thing into fourth gear? I don't even think. Let's see, where is it? It is this one right here. This hole right here for fourth gear. I don't think we're going to really need to do anything about that. Although some people say drilling it bigger for fourth is also something they do, but man, I really don't think I need to go much bigger, if any. God. I'm going to leave fourth alone. I mean, how often am I going to be slamming into fourth gear at wide open throttle? Like, never. So, I'm just going to leave that, and the spacer plate's ready to go. Now we just need to test our solenoids. Alright, so this right here is J44246-1, and this is going to be our solenoid tester. Okay, so we have this harness right here, and this harness has a couple different connectors on that, and these connectors are going to fit in our shift solenoids right here, so we can make sure our shift solenoids operate properly. So we can plug them in, we can command them. However, we need to make sure they also seal. And I don't remember how this was oriented. There we go. So I need to be able to get the connector back on. And I need to retorque. Oops. I need to torque all these, but I wasn't ready to quite do this yet. Okay, so we have the torque converter clutch solenoid there and our two shift solenoids. So let's check these. Alright, so I'm going to remove this one first. And you can see I got a couple of holes right there. Remember I told you the hole sizes are a little bit different depending on which one we have. And you can see this is set up for either or. And we can bolt that into this block. Okay. And I can hook up the wiring harness. So we'll plug in the wiring harness. Now I'm going to put air to this. Now the air I put to this should be just blowing out because it's a normally open solenoid. And then whenever we apply power to the harness, it should close. So let's apply some air. It is blown out. So I'm going to have to hook up the air. I can't find my regulator, but I barely opened the valve on the compressor, so it shouldn't be flowing very much air now. So let's see what see if this does anything. So it's blowing some air. Let's see if it flows air whenever I give it some power and ground. There's power. Try to keep the power and ground separate. There's ground. Oops. Alright, so that's better. So I do have it regulated down. I'm going to see how the other one does. I think my pressure is just too high. So now we're good. Okay, let's go with the other solenoid. I think that one's good. It's just my pressure's a little high here at my house. Alright, this valve body is ready to go back in the vehicle. Alright, so that's the old school solenoid tester. The new one's crazy. You bolt the whole solenoid assembly on and let it rip. It's a little bit different. And then the transmission control module commands all those solenoids, or you command them on with the scan tool, and you watch to see what the gauge does on each one. Okay, at this point now I need to put my valve body gasket on and my new spacer plate. Okay, now we got a couple different gaskets and it's like, oh boy, which one goes where? It's actually pretty easy. If we look at this one right here, this has got more holes on it. This says VB for the valve body side, so that one's going to go on the valve body, naturally. And this one's going to be on the transmission case side, so that's going to go on the case here. So let's flip this up. Now, whatever I do, I can't forget the check balls that I need to put into this thing. But I need my new spacer plate now. Here's my new spacer plate. It's got holes for the bolts that go through. Now, some of these bolt holes are smaller than others. Let's get this gasket lined up here. This bolt hole right here is a little bit smaller than the other ones. And so that's a good one to use as kind of your lineup bolt hole. So we can get this gasket all aligned. And it looks like this one up there is a little bit smaller too. So we got a couple bolt holes that we can use to kind of line all this up. And then we have obviously our case gasket, but I'm not quite ready for that yet, because it's going to go like this. But I don't think I'd do that until after I bolt on the accumulator housing. Alright, my accumulator housing that I had previously put together, it's going to go on. There's a separate gasket for this. Alright, you see it even says VB on it because this goes towards the valve body. It has to go like this. Okay, there we go. Okay, now we get our accumulator springs and everything in there. Obviously this one is very big. And all these bolts for the accumulator are the same size. I'm going to clean them up and I'm going to get it started, help push it down and everything, and make sure I get that on there. Alright, all these bolts are the same size. So we'll start with what appears to be one of the more difficult, challenging ones. Okay, we'll just move down the line a little bit. Now I want to make sure all these valve body bolt holes line up really good before I actually cinch this all down, because once this is cinched down, this spacer plate should be pretty solid, because it's really hard to get, if something's not right, whenever you try to stick the bolts through, whenever you put it on the valve or on the transmission case, sometimes if one of them doesn't line up, these bolts don't want to go in very well. And then you end up cross-threading into the case and that sort of thing, and that's not really good. Okay, 97 inch-pounds is what this is calling for as far as the torque spec. Alright, now I'll take these line-up bolts out. So now we can, since those are the small holes, everything should line up now. Alright, now we need to get our check balls in here. Now this kit comes with a set of check balls, so I'm just going to use them. Okay, so I'm actually going to leave out the third gear check ball, even though I just drilled out that hole, because I want that third or the direct clutch to get as much fluid as possible to it as I can, because I'm filling up much bigger volume, plus I drilled that bleed hole in it. So I'm going to need to supply it quite a bit of fluid, so I'm going to need to just leave that one out. If it does pose a problem and it slams into gear, then I might revisit it, drop the valve body off, stick the check ball back in. You know, not a big deal. Some people also leave out, I believe it's this one right here, that's the third reverse check ball. So for in reverse, that direct clutch gets faster fluid apply also. But how often do you throw it in reverse and slam on the gas? I'm going to leave that one in there. If I do have problems with it, you know, taking too long in reverse to fill up that clutch, then I'll revisit that and I'll probably put that check ball, or I'll take that check ball out. But let's see here. Did I take a picture of check ball locations? I don't think I did, and I'm not even really 100% sure how many we had. So in my hand, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and I thought we had 8, but I'm leaving this one out, and we will see how that works. Although it'll be a long time and I'll have to revisit these videos because I won't remember anything that I actually did. So when we throw this valve body back on, our manual valve right here needs to line up with this pin right there on the manual shift valve. Plus, I'm obviously going to need the valve body gasket. So I'll go ahead and set the valve body gasket on there. Now they do make pins that will line everything up. But I don't have any of those right now, so we're just going to do it the old-fashioned way. Now I need to get that. There we go. I want to make sure everything sits down. For some reason this one, oh, it's because it's sitting on that accumulator, that servo piston. Alright, so I'm still, alright, you can see this right here moves the manual valve. I'm not pinching my harness or anything. And I just need to get all the holes lined up. I think we're looking pretty good there. Alright, now these little holes right here correspond to our pressure switches. So those are going to go back on like that. Now whatever you do, make sure you don't force these bolts down in there, because if you force these bolts in there, you run a really good chance of cross-threading something, and that's obviously going to be pretty bad. This one is going to go right there because there's what holds that pipe down. So that one is going to go right there. Just kind of jiggle it to get it in there. And I'll have to figure out where those kind of went. I'm probably going to have to take a couple of these out. Looks like all three of these were, or 4 or 5 of those were actually bolts. There's round little circles around them. So that looks like a bolt. That looks like a bolt. This has a round circle. Okay, I'm pretty sure the ones with little round circles are the head of the bolt. Yeah, round circle and not a round circle right there, so I can figure those out. Like this, oh yeah, this is my dipstick stop right there. That's why that one's like that. Alright, now we're getting somewhere. Okay, so all I got to do is torque down this valve body. So I think I got everything in the right spots, which is a miracle. Alright, so our torque spec for all these valve body bolts is, I believe, 96 inch-pounds, just the same as was for all these other bolts here. And just kind of start in the middle. Alright, so it looks like I've got all the right clips in the right spot. I got the hold down for the tube here. Looks like that's going to go right back where it was. That's going to clip in there. I got the solenoids all plugged in and everything. Now I just have to torque everything down to 96 inch-pounds. Alright, so if we start in the middle there, and we start working our way out. Alright, I think I got all the 8 millimeters now. And I'm just going to kind of go over ones that I've already gotten just to make sure I've got them all. There's a lot of these bolts. Yeah, they're all good. All right, now I need to tuck my wiring harness into its clips. There we go. Okay, so this is all looking pretty good. I just need to put a filter on here. All right, I even lube up the filter neck so it goes in there nice and good. All right. Yeah, this is supposed to be a reusable gasket. I'm going to reuse it just because I don't like the cork gaskets that come in these kits. All right, so in the tail housing here, I'll get the pan on here. Like I still got to straighten it out and everything. But, I mean, do you really need to see putting the pan back on? In the tail housing here, we have our seal at the very back, and we also have one more bushing in here. Now this bushing actually supports the slip yoke of the drive shaft. So this is very important bushing also because you don't want that drive shaft to have any movement up and down because it makes this seal leak. So I need to make sure I replace that bushing also, which is pretty easy. I'll pop the seal out because I got a new one in the kit, and then I just knock that bushing through that way, and it'll be good there. Now, one thing you need to note right here, you see this a hole right here. There's actually a orifice right there that meters the amount of fluid that flows through there, and there's a passageway right there, and there's a hole that lines up with this hole right here in the bushing. So when I drive this bushing in, I need the notches facing outward and the hole facing this hole right there so lubrication can get to this bushing. If not, it'll burn up the bushing because there will be no lubrication getting there. It'll just push through this hole and then just get stuck and not be able to get back there to lubricate it. To take that seal off, I'm going to bolt it up and just knock it off. It'll take just a couple seconds. So the seal, just get on the outside of it, cave it in. All right, so the seal's out, and now we gotta get the bushing out. And I need to remove this O-ring. I almost forgot. That would have been bad. This O-ring from the very beginning of the build that's on this output shaft. Remember, we removed that yoke. Man, I was wondering what that other O-ring in the kit was for. There was an extra O-ring in the kit. I'm like, what is that for? Got to take it off of this output shaft right there because I don't want the slip yoke not getting any lubrication if it needs to slide back and forth. So now I just need to knock this bushing out. Probably be better if I just use the bushing driver. It's amazing what the right tool does. The correct tool makes life a lot easier. So we just drove it through. Now I can drive a new one in. Okay, so remember this hole right here has to line up with that hole on that bushing. And you can see the lube hole right in here that has to line up. So I have to make sure I don't drive it in too far. Which actually I can install it from this back side too. It'll be a little easier to see it. So as long as I line that up just right, Now I just need to make sure I drive it in just past flush here. Alright, I want that to be almost perfect right there. Okay, I think we're looking good now. Alright, one last little bit of cleanup. And we'll send the seal home. Looks like the right one. Looks like I can put a flat piece over that, a flat plate. Perfect. Alright, that seal is fully seated. And I just got this gasket right here. I'm running out of gaskets in my kit. That's a good sign. Alright, we'll get that gasket seated in there all the way. Clean that off. And my tail shaft housing can get bolted on. Now when you put the tail housing on, you want to make sure that you have the bottom bolts for the mount down. Alright, what do you think our torque spec on these is? Extension housing to case screw is going to be 25 foot-pounds. Alright, that's quite a bit. Bingo. So you have a couple different choices in pan gaskets. I really don't like this rubberized cork. It seems that whenever you tighten it up, it always wants to split out. And every time after like 10,000 miles, the stuff is like crushed down, and then therefore it's going to leak and all the bolts seem to loosen up. I just don't like them. I don't care for them. So if at all possible, I don't use them. And luckily on the 4L80E, this gasket right here is reusable. So we are going to do just that, and we are going to reuse it. And looks like it goes on that way, just like so. And I'm not going to put the pan on yet, because I do need to dent this back, and my family are all sleeping right now. And I'm going to have to take an air hammer to this portion of it, and then right here, from when this thing was dropped or something and drug, and kind of knock that back down flat. That's going to make a lot of noise tomorrow, so I'm going to, like I said, I'm going to have to wait till the morning to do that. I don't want to wake everybody up. So if I flip this over, right now I have a completed, other than the pan, 4L80E transmission rebuild. Alright, I know this wasn't the ideal way that we wanted to do learning how to build transmissions, but hopefully I went into enough detail that you guys can be able to, work your way through an automatic transmission rebuild. And maybe something I said will ring a bell or something whenever you decide to do it at the dealership and everything. Now, I went in way more detail now on this build than you would on, say, a warranty transmission build. And that's mainly because when it's under warranty, there's a symptom you're going in to fix. And you're not trying to completely overhaul the transmission, even though on SI it says, for an overhaul, add this. Or whatever you do, there's no way you're going to be getting that deep into your 6 speeds or anything like that, or 8 speeds. Typically, you're going to take everything apart, you're going to spray it off, clean it off. I wouldn't call that overhauling, because you're not replacing bushings and every single seal and everything on the transmission. However, on the 6-speed front wheel drives, And I don't really do any bushings on them, but you do every single seal on there and clean every crevice out of there, because all the metal that would go throughout those. But anyways, if you got any questions, let me know. And thanks a lot, guys. And you know, it's been fun. I know this last semester hasn't been exactly what we were hoping for your last semester, but I hope you have learned a lot through ASEP, and I wish you the best in your careers. Thanks a lot, guys.